Good evening. As I have started with the making of the videos on subject of economics, and if you have a look at my playlist, it has economics and statistics, two playlists are there. So, but obviously I'll be discussing these subject, and that's why I've created a separate playlist. But on the request of one of the subscribers who desired to know about econometrics, so I decided I'll start with econometrics and create a separate playlist for it. Now, starting with the definition and scope of econometrics, from the word econometrics itself, what you get to understand is that it has something to do with economics. And metrics, we all know, is something related with the measurement. Right? So if I break down the word econometrics itself, it means that it is formed from two Greek words. That's the word gets derived from the Greek word economy and measure. So it's like econometrics. If I break it down, it means that what I'm interested in measuring whatever is taking place in the economy. What is economy? Economy is a way how we lead our lives, fine. So how we are involved in earning our livelihood or carrying out a business activity, that is what is termed as economy. What to produce, how to produce, for whom to produce. When you are involved in taking decisions of how these activities, production activities are going to get carried out, that is what is economy. Now, whatever is taking place in the economy, you come across that there are so many things that are variable in nature. Variable means it keeps on changing. So it's like, if I just simply put it as, like, for example, in a society where we live, we as a unit of a household, in a household, you come across relationship between a father and mother, you come across a relationship between brother and sister, or between the parents and the children. So that relationship which is there in a household and the relationship that you end up forming in a society, there are times when we wish to measure those relationships. Though there is no perfect yardstick to measure the relationship that exists between the human beings. But when it comes to measuring the economic relationship, yes, of course, there are ways by which we can measure those relationships. And how do we end up measuring that economic relationship? That economic relationship can be measured by the study of econometrics. For example, price and quantity demanded of a commodity. We all know that the quantity demanded of a commodity is a function of price, it is a function of income, it depends upon the price of related goods, it depends upon our taste and preferences. It is just not sufficient to identify the factors that influence our demand. There are times when we wish to measure them and know them in quantitative form. So, when we are interested to measure the economic relationship between the variables and try to measure those relationship between them, that is what comes under the study of econometrics. Now, who was the person who coined this term econometrics for the first time? We get to have a look at that it was Regner Frisk, just the way he coined micro and macro for us. Similarly, he was the one who coined this term econometrics, and he became one of the founders of the Econometric Society. Now, I would be sharing my experience with you as a student when I was a student. The moment we came to know that this paper of econometrics is going to be there, it used to send chills in our spine. So we used to get scared. Oh, econometrics, it's something to do with too much of mathematics, right? It is not so. So that fear of, oh, I'm weak in mathematics. I've always not been a good scorer of marks in mathematics in my 10th. So that fear has to be first kept aside. Just take econometrics as first understanding what economics is, the theories that we study in economics, and then get an understanding that whatever is taught to us in theory, that has to be now measured. Right? So it's like you're taking milk from the milkman, but you wish to measure how much milk you are going to take from the milkman. So it's like how much liter of milk I will require. Is it 1 liter, 2 liter, or 5 liters? So when I give a number to how much my requirement of milk is, that number that I end up giving is nothing else but quantitative expression of what I require. So once if you keep this in your mind, then that fear will go out, and then you will be kind of, it will become easier for you to understand econometrics. So taking myself as also not to be a very bright student of mathematics, as I too studied till 10th, but still I keep this fear aside of mine, and then I take up the kind of sharing whatever knowledge I have of econometrics with you people. So as I was saying, just the way micro and macro, these two terms got coined by Regner Frisk, in the similar way, econometrics, this term was given to us by Regner Frisk. So why Regner Frisk had to speak about the subject of econometrics? Why he said that it is important to measure whatever economic relationships that we study in an economy? Just because what he felt was neither theory without measurement nor measurement without theory can explain economic phenomena. Fine. So we are interested to measure the economic phenomena. Whatever economic activities that are going on, we wish to measure that economic activity. But to measure something, first I need to have a theory with myself. If I do not have theory, what will I end up measuring? Fine. So it's just like theory of demand, theory of supply. The first thing that is taught to us in our 11th and 12th is that what is demand? First, the definition is given to us. Then it is told to us the factors that influence demand. And third step is that you put down that entire thing, the factors that influence demand, in the form of an equation. Once you have put it down in the form of an equation, you wish to know further how I can measure these factors. So to measure those factors, but obviously you will require some numbers to deal with. You will require some data set to deal with, right? So Ragnar Frisk was clear in his mind. He said, neither theory without measurement. If I would just end up saying, okay, here is one economic activity that is taking place, or economic phenomenon is there, that economic phenomenon is related to demand or supply. And since that phenomenon is related to demand and supply, and this is the definition of it, these are the factors that are influencing it, and it's enough with the theory part now. That will make the theory incomplete, right? Just because already, if you just refer to my introduction to economics video, you will find that we end up studying there that economics is evolutionary in nature. It is inherently a science which keeps on evolving itself. Since it keeps on evolving itself, so we cannot have stale theories in economics. So theories also need to keep on be revised. We need to keep on revising the theories. So neither theory without measurement, but obviously, though a theory has been laid down, it cannot continue to remain there forever. It will certainly make our minds inquisitive about how to measure it. So measurement is equally important. But if you think that measurement, oh yes, I'm good with numbers, I can play with the numbers, find numbers, it stimulates my mind, that will not be enough until and unless you are not sound in your theory. So both are equally important to explain any kind of economic phenomena or any kind of economic behavior. So what comes under econometrics? So, but obviously you need to have a sound ground of theory. So that's going to be economics. It's going to be economics, which is going to be there with you. If you are going to put the theory in the form of an equation, you will require the knowledge of mathematics. Once you have put down something in the form of equation and you have data collected with you and you have some observations with you, but obviously you will have to use that data in a sense that it makes sense for you. So you will require statistics to kind of dig information from it, and statistics will be helping you to draw some inferences, right? So econometrics is a subject which is not based on the knowledge of only one particular part. You need to have economic theory, you need to know about mathematics, and statistical tools. All these things, three things, they go together, and that's how you end up studying this subject of econometrics. Now, I would like to highlight the requirement of kind of measuring things. Well, it is a quantitative measurement. Yes, we have understood it very clearly. And it analyzes the economic and business phenomena that is going on. It tries to measure the economic reality, and it tries to bridge that gap between the abstract world of economic theory and the real world of human activity. Let me just focus on this particular part. What happens now is, see, abstract world of economic theory, abstract is something where it is not clearly defined. It is an idea, right? And that idea cannot be measured. Truth, honesty, find beauty. This is something which cannot be measured. So you cannot measure the beauty of someone, but still you have beauty contests and where the ranking is done. Fine. So this is what is like abstract nature. Economic theory is there in abstract world. So many factors are at play. Fine. But then there is a real world also where human activity is going on. Now, how to bridge that gap between the abstract world of economic theory, where things are in the form of an idea, you cannot measure it, but the real world is telling you that here is an human activity and I have to measure it. Right? So the work of econometrics is to bridge down that gap between the two worlds. So if I just kind of put it in the form of, you might have studied about deductive and inductive theory, deductive and inductive way of constructing a theory. Deductive is you merely look at what is going around. Based on what you see, you end up journalizing. Right? So you do not experiment, you do not perform any kind of test. You simply assume that okay, this is what is going on. If people die, you see people dying. You say, okay, if X person is you have seen dying, it means you will also die. So it's like if two or three people are dying, it means others will also die. So human beings die, that's something which you have not kind of experimented. It's based simply on your observation and you have constructed a theory. That is a deductive way of constructing a theory. Inductive is that you wish to measure, you wish to know that, okay, well, fine, this is something which has been put down in theory, this is what has been taught by my teacher in the class, but I wish to know how the real world moves. Actually, does it work or not? If you wish to know whether it actually works in the real market or not, that's where you end up entering into the market. You go into the area, into the field, and you collect some data and facts, and then you say, okay, well, here I have constructed something. So both the worlds are brought in together, and that bringing of the two worlds together is done by econometrics. Now, just the way we end up looking at whether economics is a science or an art, same thing applies for econometrics also. Since we are saying that it is something which is in which something can be measured, right? And science is, as we all know, is something which is based on scientific principles, a scientific principle of reasoning and logic. So you end up using science. Science is not merely correct collection of facts that you have collected some fact and you say it is science. No, it is not a science until unless those facts they do not convey meaning to you. If those facts convey a meaning, there is some reasoning behind it, there is some logic behind it, then only it is going to make some sense for you. So, measurement of something always lends the charm of it being logical. Fine. So, there are people who enjoy doing a lot of calculation just because they said it makes sense, there is a logic behind it. So, econometrics, if I look at the subject of econometrics, which is based on economics, it includes your mathematics and it has statistics. Since it is based on all these three subjects, then obviously it makes me to feel that econometrics is a science, right? But then, yes, of course, it is a science since it is based on reasoning and logic. But then there is a reminder that it is not a perfect science. The level of accuracy is not going to be It's not going to be absolutely 100%. Just because the reason being is that econometrics is trying to measure the economic relationship between the variables. And that economic relationship between the variables doesn't remain constant. It keeps on changing. There are factors in our life which are not controllable, right? In real world, I cannot control things. So what is taught to me in theory of demand, where it is told to me that demand of a commodity is a function of price of the commodity, income, taste and preferences, and other factors, where we end up saying that of course demand and price, they have got an inverse relationship provided other factors remain constant. So my income, my taste and preferences, price of related goods, if all these factors will remain constant, then there is going to be an inverse relationship between demand and price. So what is taught to me in theory, it does make sense to me. Yes, of course, every person is going to get influenced by the price. So first thought that comes to us is when we are purchasing something is the price. But that doesn't mean that other factors are going to remain constant in real life. You cannot control those other factors. So, income, price of related goods, your taste and preferences, they cannot be controlled. So, these factors, which we are assuming in our theory to remain constant, in real world do not remain constant. They keep on changing. So the level of accuracy in measuring these factors or measuring these variables cannot be 100%. So therefore, if I speak of econometrics, yes, of course, it is a science since it deals with the measurement of economic relationship or economic phenomena. And science, just because something which is measurable makes it much more uh, sound in terms of reasoning, it makes it more sound logically. Yes, of course, it is a science, but then it is not a perfect science since the factors or the variables, they cannot be controlled the way we perform experiments in closed laboratories. That controlled experimentation cannot be done under economics. So economics is something which is related with what is going on in your economy, and that economy is it keeps on changing, it keeps on moving with the time. So since it keeps on evolving, so here you have something, a data which is not, which cannot give you a 100% accurate answer or a reply, right? So if I speak of econometrics, it has evolved as a separate discipline from mathematical statistics as it deals with non-experimental data. Right? So this is not a data or observations which you have collected through experimentation under closed rooms. It is a non-experimental data that you are dealing with, or it's an observational data which you are dealing with where controlled experiments on individuals or firms or segments of the economy cannot be done. So you cannot put somebody in a closed room and you say, okay, now you tell me how your demand for a chapati. Fine. So that person is going to be like looking at your face, demand for a chapati. You have placed me in a closed room and you are asking for it. I have no income with myself. There is zero money in my pocket to pay to you. I'm not bothered about the price. What will I do with the price just because I have zero money in my pocket? So it's not something which is taking place in closed doors. It's like the economy is open. So you cannot expect answers in like uh, in a way that x is equal to x. Fine, that cannot take place here. X can be equal to y, it can be equal to z, it can be equal to any number. Fine, so it cannot be accurate one. So if you are looking out for perfect answers here, it is not possible since it is the people on from whom you are going to collect the data, it is the firms from whom you are going to collect the data, or different sectors that you are going to kind of look into to collect the data. And that data keeps on changing, right? So you cannot control those data. That data cannot be controlled. So econometrics therefore had to evolve as a separate discipline. So, till now, what we have understood is that econometrics is a subject not to be feared upon just because the word itself is telling us that we have to measure something what is going on in the economy. And who would not love to measure what is going on in the economy? Yes, of course, it will interest me to know whether my country is progressing or not. How will I come to know my country is progressing or not? It is what is taught to me in national income, the concepts of GDP, GNP. Will I be just happy to have those learn those formulas of deriving GDP and GNP? No, I would like to actually know how much it is there in actual number. And that's what econometrics helps us to understand, right? So this is what is econometrics in simple terms. Of course, it is based on other sciences. It depends on other subjects. It depends on economics. Economics obviously has to become a base for it. But then it is not enough to know only about economics. It has to take the support of mathematics so that you can have some equations getting formed there. And then you use statistics so as to come out with some meaningful or meaning from the data that you are going to use. So that data should convey something, some sense to you, and therefore you have these three things coming together under econometrics. So it is not a hard science or a perfect science, or it's not like natural science, but econometrics is much more like a social science, since talking about the people who are living in a society. So I think I have already kind of spoken here. Now, why a separate discipline is required? Why we need to have a separate discipline to study, like to have econometrics? When I say discipline here, discipline refers to econometrics as a subject. Fine. Now, separate discipline is required just because, as I just now mentioned and took the example of demand, similarly, you have supply. As I said, you wish to numerically estimate the relationship between demand and price and demand and income, or you wish to make a study of relationship between the supply and price or price and supply. That numerical estimation can be done only by using econometrics. And how econometrics helps us to do that? It will be helping us to measure that demand theory or supply theory in terms of elasticity. So, elasticity of demand, elasticity of supply. I would like to measure the relationship between consumption and income, propensity to consume, desire to consume. So, those propensity measurement or marginal relationship measurement that can be done only by the use of econometrics. So, that's why we require a separate discipline or a subject. So, if I kind of those who have already kind of familiar with the subject and have moved ahead with the micro and macro, they may be able to relate with it in a much better way. It is taught to us, elasticity of demand is taught to us, fine. Elasticity of demand is nothing else but the degree of responsiveness. Degree of responsiveness of demand to the change in price. If someone says, okay, this relationship between the demand and price, this elasticity has come out to be like, let's say, minus zero point 0.5, or it has come out to be zero point 0.5, this zero point 0.5 or minus zero point 0.5 will make sense to you, right? Since you are saying it is a measurement of the degree of responsiveness. So you're measuring that degree. If I would have simply said, okay, I'm talking about the elasticity, the extent to which the demand is going to respond to the change in price, and that range of elasticity can lie between 0 to 1. So, okay, it can lie between 0 to 1, but I am not sure whether it is going to be 0.25 or it is going to be zero point 0.1 or it is going to be zero point 0.5. Fine, so I'm not very sure of it. So, it can be more than 1, it can be 1.25. I am not very sure of that. Fine, it can be greater than 1, it can be equal to 1, it can be 0, it can be equal to infinity. I am not aware of that. So, if I just end up saying it is greater than or lesser than 1, equal to 1 or 0, it will convey it will be appealing to the person who is looking at the elasticity of demand, the relationship between demand and price, the extent to which the demand is responding to the change in price. That person will be glad to know, okay, you have given an answer, elasticity is equal to 1. But then that person may scratch the head and say, every time you are giving me the same answer, equal to 1 or less than 1 or greater than 1, I wish to know the degree. Fine. So if you can just give me the degree. that degree will make it more, it will make more sense to that person. So how to get that degree now? That degree I can get only, I'm not talking about your graduation degree, I'm talking about the degree in terms of measurement, measure, fine. So if milk is there for me in liter, cloth is there for me in meter, I would wish to know the degree of relationship or degree of responsiveness of demand in relation to the price, and degree will come with the help of the use of econometrics, right? So that is the beauty of this subject. Now, why we say econometrics is required, since economic relationships are abstract in nature. By this time, yes, of course, we know that relationships, take it in your own human relationship, they're also abstract in nature, right? You may have an idea of having a pleasing or a pleasant relationship between you and your mother, right? That is an idea. In reality, you may not have it. Everyone, when you are taught in your school, you are told that a happy family, not necessary that happy family actually exists. You can have a beautiful relationship with your with your mother, or you may have a bitter relationship with your mother. So that is reality. Okay. So econometrics is required since economic relationships are abstract in nature. Mathematics does give it an expression in equation form, but mathematical models are deterministic in nature. Now, look at the beauty of it. Economic relationship is abstract in nature. Nobody can measure the depth of relationship of a child with their parents. But then you have an expression of it in the form of an equation. When you are told to stand for a family photograph, all the members stand together for a family photograph. That is nothing else but an expression in the form of an equation. But that family photograph is more deterministic in nature. Try to understand. Even if you don't feel like smiling in the photograph, but still you are there smiling. That mathematical model is also, it is deterministic, means you can determine it. Fine. But at the back of that family photograph, which has been clicked only once, you have some factors which are beyond your control. You have some emotions which are beyond your control. And in the same way, if you look at economic phenomena, it is getting influenced by so many factors. These factors, they are random factors over which you have no control. Or these random factors, they are also called as stochastic factors, right? So these stochastic factors or random factors, which are based on probability, these stochastic factors, they result in deviating from the exact behavior. So it's like a perfect family picture where everyone is seen to be smiling and kind of showing happiness to be together. Not necessary that happiness or a happy faces in the family photograph appear to be of after the photo, it appears to be of the same kind, just because there are certain factors which are influencing the human emotions. And there will be deviations from that perfect picture that you have put into your drawing room, that you have placed in your drawing room. So that picture photograph, real life will always show deviation from that picture photograph. Fine. So that is what is, there are deviations from the exact behavior. The equation tells us demand is a function of price, income, blah, blah. But you have to keep other factors constant. Then only you will be able to see that inverse relationship between demand and price. That is a model which is telling us, which is deterministic in nature. But here, hello, hi, comes the economic factors, which tells us how come you have kept the taste and preference constant? How come you have kept the income constant? I don't see them constant. And that's where, when they are not constant, they make the things move away from that exact behavior. And therefore, the deviation is there. And that's what gets measured under econometrics. So it's like talking about stock market. If we have a look at stock market, you see that everyone doesn't behave in the same, the prices of the shares are the same for everyone, fine. So if it is going for 10 rupee, it is there for 10 rupee for you also. At the same time, if we are in the, at the same time, if we are there, both of us are there, you are also seeing it for 10, I am also seeing it for 10, fine. But you may purchase it for 10, but I may not, I may put it on hold. So The example of stock market can be given here where the asymmetrical information results in few investors taking more advantage of the market investment than others. So what is it is telling us? We are talking about an economy. In an economy, everything is not in a symmetrical form. The information that you have is asymmetrical in nature. Fine. So few people may know more than you, as the way you feel like that you know, but there might be people who may know more than you. So they may have more information and they may include more factors at the time when they are, let's say, investing in a stock market. So those who have more information, access to more information, may take advantage of the market. They may say, okay, I'll buy it for 10. This appears to be a good price to me to buy this stock. You may say, no, it appears to be too much for me to go for a purchase of this stock for 10. I'll wait, let it fall down to 2. Fine. So it is like that person may have a different set of information as compared to you. So that is what makes this subject to get to have its own charm. Fine. So that's where this econometrics it emerges as a separate discipline for us. I'll stop here just because I would not like to kind of overload you with the information, and gradually we will continue to look into it, that how this entire thing works. And for the moment, I think I have spoken enough for the day. Thank you.